so welcome to a quick segment of Mealtime
with the Millers.
With the Millers. So I'm just popping my head in. I'm going to be recording, and Jeremy's going to be starting. What are we making today, babe?
So today we are making fried ramen. Reason we went with that is because we all know we're all locked in this house. Nobody wants to be locked in the house, and I know we get bored and tired of eating the same thing. So I was sitting there and I said, yes, Jeremy. I said, what can we do to spice up things a little differently? Why don't you make ramen? I'm sick of eating ramen. Why don't you fry it? Wait a minute. I've never had fried ramen before. Try it. So that's how I discovered fried ramen. Because when you're in college and you're lacking funds and all you have in your house is ramen, you get very creative. So anyway, what I want to do with you guys is just kind of go over one thing that I've done. And it's very simple to make. You guys can do it at home. If you have ramen, it's just different things in your house. So I want to go over what we have. So what you'll need for this, you'll need a small skillet. I have a wooden spoon in there now to help stir it. A small pot with 2 cups of water. I'm going to go ahead and get that boiling. You can cut your water on high to get it boil a little faster. And then if you come over here, the main ingredient of this baby,
dun, dun, dun.
We have ramen noodles. It can be any flavor you want, chicken, beef, oriental. Right now I just grabbed chicken because that's the first thing I grabbed. Some people do this. I personally do this. There's a debate. I don't care what anybody says. I season my ramen with the packets. Some people look like I'm crazy, but I'll go through all the seasonings I have. You'll need some type of oil to fry the ramen in. Right now, I'm using sesame seed oil, because we have some. But you can also use canola oil, vegetable oil. Olive oil, I'd recommend it as like a last resort because it doesn't fry as well with that. But that's what I would use. I have an egg that I've already beaten, mixed up. If you want to add meat to this, whatever leftover meat you have, you can use. So we had sausage the other day, so in the bowl I have some sausage, I shredded up, and I had Chick-fil-A earlier, so some shredded up chicken tenders, some onions and garlic. So now what we're doing, we're literally just waiting for this water to boil. So as you're waiting for it to boil, some people like to have their ramen in one pat, don't like to break it. I personally just kind of crumble mine up. You can have fun with it, break it up as much as you want. But before we do anything else, and this is the number one thing, and I should have started with this, I haven't touched any food since then, you always want to wash your hands. So what we're going to do, we're going to come to the sink, get water warm, get some soap. You know they say go for about 20 seconds. For me, going about 20 seconds, I can just talk your head off for 20 seconds, do different things, quote scripture, be petty, but you know, I don't. So then you get it under, just kind of wash your hands, give it a good wash. That way you get bacteria. I know some of you are like, oh, I'd rather just use hand sanitizer. Personally, I recommend washing your hands because let's be real. If you went to a restaurant, what would you rather have your cook tell you, that they wash their hands or they just put hand sanitizer on and kept going? That's my thing. So, dry my hands real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay. We're just waiting for the water to boil, you guys.
So, with this recipe, you can add anything you want in here. That's the beauty of this. So, what I'll add in with mine, I forgot. We have some frozen peas and carrots.
Peas and carrots. Or you can also add corn. Jeremy bought me corn the other day. I love corn.
Yeah. I was about to slam this on the counter, but it broke easily, so it made life easier. So while you're waiting for the water to boil, honestly, you can sit there and just stare. And stare. And stare. Don't get too close.
We actually have a Disney movie going on right now, but yeah, just waiting for the water to boil.
So as that, I get all my seasonings ready, and I guess I can go over what seasonings I'm using. For me, I personally love seasoning food. That's just my culture. Let's say the Spanish culture, we season everything. My dad's Bahamian, Jamaican culture, we throw a bunch of seasonings in there. So, I grew up adding seasonings. So, with my ramen, I go with the seasoning packet that's already in here. And then, I just grab some of the extra seasonings I have in there. So, a little bit of cayenne pepper, a little bit of curry powder, some lemon pepper seasoning, some oregano leaves, Tony Saturated Creole seasoning, or Cajun seasoning. For all my Latinos,
adobo.
You know what this is. Adobo. I'm Puerto Rican. As Puerto Ricans, we put adobo in everything. Italian seasoning, a little bit of basil leaves, some soy sauce, some hot sauce. And look, our water's boiling. Or as I've heard somebody before say, the water's getting angry. So, once that happens, I recommend fishing the packet out because you don't want to get it out the water. Just dump the ramen in there.
And just a quick tip, you guys. We recommend that when you boil your noodles, because Jeremy's doing a fried ramen recipe, do not let your noodles boil too long because they're going to start breaking. So boil them in an adequate time, you know, the normal 3 minutes. But if you boil them too long, they're not going to hold as well when you make the fried ramen.
All right, so as it's boiling, I know usually they said let the noodles get soft or whatever. I go ahead and start adding my seasoning in one by one. So if it's going high and look at the water's going up, you can turn it down to like an 8 or whatnot, 8 or 9. Add a little bit of seasoning. Oops, put a little bit of adobo there. Don't want to over season it too much because then it's going to come out super salty. I just hit it a little bit with seasoning. Added my Creole seasoning, a little bit of lemon pepper seasoning. Cayenne, I don't want to be too spicy, so I usually just go one dash of cayenne pepper. Curry powder. Don't want to go too heavy or it's going to not taste right. Oregano. You know your taste buds. You know how you like your food. So honestly, go with it how you want. So add a little bit of oregano. Add a little bit of Italian seasoning. And a little bit of basil. Now, I'll let it sit there for a minute. And one thing I've learned, cleaning up as you go makes life a lot easier. So when I'm done with it, while it's still cooking, I make sure all my seasonings are closed properly. I just put them back. That way I don't have to worry about cleaning it up later. Don't have to worry about it just sitting out. I've seen before where one of my friends left seasoning sitting close to a burner before, and it melted plastic and it shattered glass because it got too hot. So I always say keep your seasonings away. Ooh, that almost fell. All right, give it a good little stir. And what I do now, since I'm using some frozen peas and carrots, I just kind of toss them in here a little bit. Just a little, not a lot. I know some people say go, if you want a measurement, half a cup. If you want to eyeball it, go eyeballing it. If you put the frozen in there, turn it back on to high and let it start to reboil again. So, as that's going, I hope you guys have been doing good during the quarantine. Yeah, I know it sucks that we're all stuck inside, but it is what it is. We're making the best of it. As you can see up here, I'm in desperate need of a haircut and all the barbershops are closed. So please don't judge me. I meant to put a do-rag on to cover all this up, but it is what it is. You guys are family. You guys love me. So as you can see, it's starting to boil back now. Slowly but surely. And then I take the seasoning packet. You don't have to add the seasoning packets. I know some people say that's too much. I personally like adding the seasoning packet because if not, it'll just be kind of a strange flavor. So I personally add it. It's more fun if you have different flavor ramen. We're out of shrimp ramen. My favorite flavor is the Oriental or the chili lime. Grace, which one? I think you like. Which one's your
creamy
favorite?
chicken.
Oh yeah, Grace loves the creamy chicken. I knew that too. But it doesn't matter what flavor you go with. If you like to spice it up, make it spicy. If you like to make it not so spicy, don't spice it up. Alright, so I let it boil with the seasoning in there a little bit so it doesn't do too bad. And then I add some soy sauce. And usually I do 1, 2, 3. That's my kind of way I count it. And then I take some hot sauce. Don't matter what you use. Grace likes Texas. You like Louisiana, right?
Texas Pete.
Grace likes Texas Pete. I knew that. I don't know why I said Louisiana. I personally lived in the Midwest for a while, and this is all they had anywhere you went was Frank's, and I've gotten addicted to it. So I don't drown it in hot sauce. I usually go 1, 2, 3. Mix it all up. Let it cook for a little bit. Now, while you're doing that, come to your skillet. You turn your skillet on medium. So if it goes to a number, whatever number's in the middle, I do not recommend turning it on high because you turn it on high, the grease cooks too much and it'll burn anything you go in there and it'll set off the smoke detectors. So I personally recommend using that. I'm not going to use the olive oil this time. So what I use for this one, I'm using sesame seed oil. It doesn't matter what type of oil you use. Some people like vegetable oil, some people like canola oil, some people like avocado oil, coconut oil. All that works. I would recommend using one of those. Olive oil works, but it's better to fry in canola oil, vegetable oil first. So as I got this going on, I feel a little bit is getting hot. I'll add a little bit in here. If you need to know how much to add, want to measure, about a tablespoon. So do that. I usually do like a circular motion. And then I just let it heat up. And while it's heating up, I'll take it and shake it around the pan. If you're not comfortable using the skillet or using the pan, you have a parent around, ask somebody to help you with it. Trust me. If your parent knows you're not comfortable doing that, they will not let you touch it. Or they'll help you out. So while that's heating up, we'll let it sit there for a minute because it heats up very fast. You go ahead, you cut your ramen off, give it a good stir, and you'll see it's taking up a lot of the liquid and doesn't look like as watery as it did. I will take it off heat for a little bit. Take it off heat for about 30 seconds. And as you can see, the ingredients I have over here, I had some onions that I already chopped up. I have a little bit of minced garlic, as you can see. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't sit there and cut it up myself. I bought the jar, scooped it out and stuck it in there. Ain't nobody got time to be trying to chop garlic like that. I cracked 1 egg and beaten the 1 egg. Some people like to add milk to their egg. Some people just like to leave the egg alone. I left it like that. Some people add cheese to it. And it's not bad with cheese. I've had it with cheese. I personally just don't care for it with cheese. And I think Grace we've talked about it before. This is the one thing that she kind of didn't care for was cheese. Because Grace loves cheese, isn't that right?
Yes, I'm literally a mouse.
Alright, so now what you'll do with this, you'll bring it over to your sink carefully.
Make sure you drain the water, you guys, because you're making a fried recipe.
Drain as much liquid as possible. You don't want to use a strainer because the noodles are so small, it'll start going through the strainer. So what I do, the method I use, I take the spoon I was just working with, put it to the edge of the pot, hold the pot like that, and slowly pour it. And as you can see, it helps. I don't just turn it all the way upside down. Just take your time. We're not rushing. You drain as much liquid out as you can. If there's still some in there, when you toss it in, it's fine, it'll cook out. But you don't want to cook soup like a bunch of water and broth inside of frying. That's not a good mix. Trust me. I've learned from experience. It doesn't end well. It did not kindle anybody joy and it required a fire drill in my dorm.
Oh gosh.
So, once you get as much liquid drained out as possible, just set it to the side. Don't put it back on the same burner you just used. Please do not, because it will start burning at the bottom. So now you look at your oil. You see, you kind of hold your hand over. You see it's kind of heating up. If you want to know your oil's ready, a trick I've learned: if you take a spoon, like a wooden spoon, and stick it in the oil, if you see bubbles coming out, that means it's ready. Or some people, they said they get a little bit of water tricklet. I wouldn't recommend that, because I know some of you all watching this will sit there and throw water and the grease will fly back on you and you'll be very unhappy. So to start, I'll add the onions and garlic. And you hear that nice simmering? Oh yeah, there we go. I put it in there just a little bit to give it some time to brown up. Mix it in there. As you can see, it's coating all that really well. With the sesame oil, it cooks quickly. So now the next thing I'll do, just pour the ramen right on top of it. With the ramen on top, you kind of start mixing it. You don't want to go too crazy, but you mix it. It starts cooking and it starts frying. And once you have it, if you have it in the middle, you can take it up a little bit. It's about a 6 or a 7, just to kind of help it. Don't put it on high because you will burn everything. Now this next method, I had a friend in college who taught me this, and I thought this was the creepiest thing they did. But it was one of my old roommates. He said, man, he said back in the day, he was from Florida. He said, I used to work in I worked in a Chinese restaurant. I said, you worked in a Chinese restaurant? He said, and he said, I worked in a Chinese restaurant, I worked in a Japanese restaurant, I worked in a Korean restaurant. I said, oh. He said, yeah, and the funny thing is, I'm not even Asian. He said, I'm Native American, and he said, I just worked there, and he said, he said he had people that treated him like he did, like he was from China or from Asia or anywhere. He was like, whatever. But he learned some techniques. He said, dude, when you make your egg, just pour it right on top. I was like, pour the egg on top? He said, trust me, it'll cook the egg all the way through. So, take the egg we beat, pour it right on top of all the noodles, and it'll slowly start cooking.
Here's a close-up.
So once you put the egg in there, you have to constantly turn it, because if not, your egg's going to start to burn, and it'll start cooking as one big thing. So you want to keep kind of like turning it, and at the same time going like with a push-down motion, kind of a chopping motion. That way when the eggs start to cook, it's not becoming one big thing. It's kind of separating. Now that it's starting to cook a little bit better, and it's starting to get there, what I'll add next is meat. If you don't want to add meat, you don't have to. I personally like this with meat, so I have some shredded chicken and some shredded sausage. And now I will mix all that up, and now all you do is just cook it till it starts to crisp. You'll see it crisping. You don't want to burn it, but you want to keep moving your hand like this. You want to keep taking the spoon, turning it. You want to keep doing this folding method. Pick, fold. Pick up, fold. Push forward, fold over. Occasionally chopping in the middle. It mixes everything up very well. And as you see, the eggs aren't making like one big, it's not like a big scrambled egg with a bunch of noodles in it. If you eat it, it's all going to be separate. So, honestly, this is the part that takes the longest because you have to let it cook through. So, what we're going to do is just kick it up a little bit more and cook through. You'll see some of it sticks to it. I usually just rub it along the side. So this was what we used to call a struggle meal in college. And everyone's like, what's a struggle meal? Yeah. When you're sitting at home and when you're in college or out on your own, and you're sitting there trying to figure out what you're going to do, what's your next meal going to be, man, all I have, let me tell you, you have some vegetables, maybe some chopped onions or whatever, some leftover meat, doesn't matter what it is. I probably wouldn't do fish, but whatever. Some leftover meat, you make work whatever you can. And the beauty of this is God provides. So, just a testimony about when Grace and I were, during our marriage, one time things got really hard on us. We had just came back, Grace had just came back from Southeast Asia for a month. We had one salary and we had a big pay issue. We didn't know what we were going to eat. So the beauty of this was, one day I saw we had a pack of ramen. So I grabbed the ramen. I saw that we had some leftovers from when we ate with friends. We went over to our friend's house to eat. So what I did was, we didn't want to eat the leftovers again. I cooked the ramen one day, and I went ahead and just did it kind of like this. Instead of making fried rice with everything, I made fried ramen, and it was good. And God provided for us because even though it looked like one pack of ramen, being real, we were able to eat half of this and save it for the next day. So God extended that one thing of ramen, which a lot of us can sit there and eat in one sitting and not be full or just have it as a snack. God made that 2 meals. So I always tell you, God provided. It reminds me of the story about how Jesus fed the 5,000 with the fish and the loaves. It was phenomenal. And one thing I always do, I didn't do on camera this time, and I apologize, but before I cook anything, I always try to get my ingredients out, and I just pray, I say, Lord, touch every ingredient that's going into this dish, Father. Give me guidance on what I'm putting in here, Lord. Father, if there's any impurities in anything I'm going to cook, let it cook out now, God, and let your Holy Spirit be released over it. So, Lord, I thank you for everything that's in this dish right now, God. I thank you that you're touching everything. I thank you that you are making this dish delicious. And, Father, everybody who's seeing this video right now will be touched by your Spirit when they're in the kitchen, God. In Jesus' name. I learned that from my aunt, my great aunt. Like, I call her my grandmother because she raised my dad. She told me that was her secret because I've never had a bad dish from her. Like, people will go for miles. She's from the backwoods of Florida, y'all. A place called Yalaha, Florida. No, probably none of y'all know what that is. But she told me, she said, want to know one way I make my meals and it's always good? She said, I pray over every ingredient before I put it in. So I started doing that and all my food comes out pretty good. Now, don't get it twisted. I've had some food that had some mishaps where I wasn't paying attention. Burned some things or kind of didn't taste right. But you know what? God will provide. And if you need help, pray. He will provide. Even if you're struggling right now for food or whatnot and may not have enough, pray over what you got. God will work it out. So, back to this ramen. It's starting to crisp a little bit at the bottom. Not all the way, just because we've added so much stuff. And that's the other trick. The more you add in here, the longer it takes. So, I'll let it sit a little bit to give it a chance to crisp at the bottom. While that's cooking at the bottom, I'm going to grab some fishes. When you hear that sound, when you hear that little frying sound, that's a good sign. And I see some of our noodles are starting to brown a little bit. And the thing is, the longer you cook it, the crispier it'll get. You just don't want to cook it to the point where it goes from like a golden brown to a dark brown to a black. Because if it goes to that black where you're cooking it, that means you burned it. Usually I have some worship music going on in the background here. Today, didn't have it. And you can add other things. Usually I'll add some cilantro in there. Add
Some spring onion.
Spring onion, cilantro. This is the first time I actually added garlic in here. But I assumed, like, you know what? Garlic usually tastes good on everything else when you cook it the right way. So I was like, all right, garlic's not going to kill it. So yeah.
Okay, looks like it's almost done.
Yeah. Like I said, it's taking a long time because there's so much in here. Remember, you got noodles, you got onions, garlic, carrot, peas, sausage, and chicken in this one. So it's 7 different ingredients you have in here right now. And like I said, whatever you have sitting around left over. I've heard somebody did this with meatloaf. They literally took some meatloaf, cut it up, and when they fried it, they tossed some meatloaf in there. They said it was actually really good. I don't know how I feel about meatloaf, but hey, I wouldn't give anything a try.
That sounds nasty, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I probably wouldn't do meatloaf.
Doesn't sound too.
I like what Jeremy added.
I've never done fish, but I'm assuming you can do fish. But I wouldn't. Just me, I personally wouldn't try to cook fish with ramen. I'd rather, if I had to eat fish with noodles, I'd rather be a soup than something fried. And that's a whole different type of recipe. All right, so for the most part, as you can see it now, it's starting to get golden brown. Your ramen is fried. You can let it sit a little longer. You don't have to. Let me go ahead and cut the oven off. Let me cut the stove off.
Guys.
And then what I do, I slowly kind of scoop it into the dish.
All right, guys. So there's your fried ramen.
There you go. As you see, you kind of make it like that. You can dress it up any way you would like to. But this is pretty much us. This is an easy meal. It took us about 20 minutes to get everything done. And I just encourage you guys, you can add anything you want in there. It comes out good. So I want you guys to try the recipe. Try it out and tell me what you think. If you like it, let us know. Let the leaders know. If you know me, tell me directly you like it. If you don't like it, keep it to yourself. No, I'm just kidding. If you don't like it or you find a way to improve it, definitely share with everybody. The whole point is we want to encourage you guys to just get out there, do something differently. If you see cooking, help out. If your parents don't feel like cooking one day and they're okay with it, cook for the family. Who knows? This might be the next crave. Your family might love it. You might love it. But we love you guys. We're praying for you guys. And this has been Mealtime with the Millers. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.